Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today I'm going to be talking about the Kokkaloorie sweater from Fair Isle Weekend. This is the first installment of the, maybe it's pronounced Kokkaloorie. I should know that. It's kind of embarrassing, but that's a Shetland dialect word and I don't speak a Shetland dialect. So it's spelled like that, Kokkaloorie. It is the Shetland dialect name for a daisy. So here's the picture in the book. It's hard to sort of see the design on the yoke. It's a traditional yoke pullover, but I will show. There's one other picture of another colorway. There it is in the very front. So there you can sort of see the flower and the trees. And that is that's a better representation. So this Fair Isle Weekend by MJ Mucklestone, I'm knitting my way through this in 2021. 8 patterns. They're all great. I can't wait to continue with this. So this is a work in progress right now, so you'll be seeing it in pieces, and I'll be explaining kind of how it's constructed at this, and I'm going to be going in depth about this stage of the process, so like early stages of the pattern. Before I get into it, I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing today. This is the Ridari sweater by Vidas Jonsdottir. You can get it on Ravelry, or you can get it in the book Knitting with Icelandic Wool, which is, I think it's all her patterns. She's a really famous, prolific Icelandic designer who designs a lot of patterns for Istex, which is the Icelandic company that produces Lopi. I'm gonna adjust this. So it's a great yarn. This is not made in Lopi. This is made in McCausland's 2-ply. It's a very rustic yarn from Prince Edward Island. Nice heathered. It's kind of just like a worsted weight, standard worsted weight, maybe DK weight. But this sweater is knit at a gauge of 18 stitches over 4 inches. And worsted weight gauge. So this is a typical Lopa Pesa pattern or Lopi sweater pattern, and it's constructed in the same way as the Kokkaloorie sweater. So that's why I wore it today. I love this sweater. It's a great yarn, and I recently gleaned it, like I shaved it because it was getting really pilly, and it worked great. I have a gleaner. It's like electric. I should like show it. I can't remember what it's called. My mom got it for me from Food 52, which is her favorite website for recipes, and apparently you can buy sweater shavers from them also, which I find hilarious, but it's great. So today I'm going to be talking about Kokkaloorie. So again, it's from Fair Isle Weekend, and it's a traditional Shetland yoke pullover, so it's knit from the bottom up in 3 tubes. It is a seamless sweater except for when you join the underarms. So as you can see here, that's the only, it's not really a seam, I just Kitchener stitched that together. You can either graft it with a 3-needle bind off from the inside, or you can Kitchener stitch it, or you can sew it if you want to just bind off those stitches. But I'm going to show you my progress so far. The gauge for this, by the way, is 26 stitches over 4 inches, which is not as tight as like an all over Fair Isle sweater, which would be more like 32 stitches over 4 inches, so a little tighter. This bag is from Hoagie & Co. It's like called the box tote. There's a little indigo stain on it because sometimes I knit with indigo yarn and the indigo gets all over everything. But that's fine, it gives it character. I love this bag, it's huge. This sweater is not huge yet, but it will be eventually. So first of all, I'm knitting this from a cone. This is a cone of Jamieson & Smith Jumper Weight Supreme in Shetland Black. So this is an undyed yarn. This is the darkest of the colors that they have. It's a really dark brown. The cone was originally 500 grams. It was thicker than this. Here's another one. So it's thinner now because I've been using it. this is how big a 500-gram cone is. This is 20 balls of 2-ply jumper, or 2-ply jumper weight, or 10 balls of jumper weight supreme, because those come in 50-gram balls if you buy them individually. And this is, I think this is Gommel Goat. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. It's shade 2006. This is shade 2005. They come in numbers and names. I haven't decided yet on the yolk colors for this, but I'll show you. This will be the background for the yolk. I am gonna do like brown body, light brown for the yolk background, and then colors. And I'll show you my 2 possible palettes in a minute. But this is so far what it looks like. It's got these little stitch stoppers are from Coco Knits, and they're amazing. If you need their foam, and they just slide over your needle, and they are pretty, like, I mean, you can obviously pull it off, but it's not just gonna slip off. They're amazing. And they come in several different sizes, and the sizes are all different colors. So like the yellow ones are for size, for me, I would use that on like a 4 to 6. The green ones, like a 7 to 8. The orange ones, this is a size 3 needle. Orange are like 3 to 4. Anyway, so this is the body. I have a little progress keeper shaped like a dumpling. I don't know who made this, but I got it at Looped, which is my local yarn store in Washington. So here's that. And then I have a sleeve. This one's done. It's still on needles, but it's finished. So this is how you do it. You knit the body separately and the sleeves. So there's gonna be another one of these eventually, and they're all separate. And then I broke the yarn for the sleeve. You're gonna put them all on the needles together after siphoning off some stitches for the underarms. And I'll have a video where I show how that happens. And there's lots of tutorials for that online. But one of the things that I'm doing for this sweater that's an edit is that I'm making it into a cardigan. So part of this series is gonna be to explain to you how I have to make edits to the original pattern to make it into a cardigan. So the little marker here is at the beginning of the round, and you can see here outlined in purl stitches is where I'm gonna cut it open. I'm gonna make, so that's gonna be a steek, or this is the steek. I don't really know how the word steek is like properly necessarily used. Like when you say you're gonna steek a cardigan, it means you're gonna cut it open, or steek a sweater like at the armholes, it means you're gonna cut it. The steek is this. It's like the bridge that you cut. So that's the steek. So how to make a cardigan from a pullover pattern in several not totally difficult steps. Number 1, find out how many stitches you need to cast on. So I'm gonna open this and read the number of stitches I need to cast on for. Okay, so I'm knitting the second smallest size, and you're supposed to cast on 242. So you cast on 1 more than that, 1 more than 242. So the original number is usually an even number, and then you want to add 1 so that it's an odd number. And the reason you do this is so that you can properly center the motif for the yoke around the steek bridge that you cut open. So it's symmetrical, it's the same on both sides. So you add 1 stitch to what it says. So mine is 243. So I cast on 243 stitches on my smaller ribbing needles. I knit a ribbed band, a 1x1 ribbed band. You can choose whatever you want, 2x2, rolled edge, whatever you want. I knit it for 20 rows because I was knitting it back and forth. So you're gonna knit it in rows. You could join it in the round if you wanted, but generally you wait to cast on the steek bridge and you just knit back and forth for the band. So that's 243 stitches. Back and forth is an odd number, and you want the first and last stitch of the right side to be a knit stitch. So if you're doing a regular long tail cast on and you start with the wrong side row, you want to purl the first stitch, and then you're going to end up purling the last stitch as well. So not too bad. Then you knit the ribbed band for as long as you want. Not sure how long mine is. You can see here It's that long. It's 2.5 inches, 20 rows on a size 2.5 needle, something like that. Maybe a 2, because my body needle is a size 3. So I think that's smaller than what they suggest in the book. I could check. No, it'll take too long to check. I usually size down. I'm a loose knitter. It's because I don't wrap the yarn around my finger when I'm knitting. I just like pull it. So that makes it looser. Okay, so when you're done with that, you should finish with a right side row. So again, I did 20. So I started with the wrong side. So 20 was the right side. And then when you get to the end of the row, don't turn it back to the wrong side. Keep the right side out. Cast on your steek stitches. I cast on 9 stitches for my steek. You can cast on 5, you can cast on 13. That depends on you and your steek method. So I do a needle felted steek usually, which means I have a felting needle and a pad, and I stab repeatedly my steek bridge until it's really, really felted on the back so that I know it won't unravel. Although for this one, I'm thinking of just not securing it, because apparently you don't have to do that with Shetland wool, because it's so toothy that it just kind of holds itself together. Okay, so I cast on 9 steek stitches. Do what you're comfortable with, and then you're gonna join it in the round and just keep going. So at that point, when it's convenient for you, maybe not like right after the steek, because that could get complicated, you're gonna switch to your larger needles, your regular body size needles. And I usually place my end of round or beginning of round, whatever marker, right before the steek. So that, the reason for that is because I purl the first and last stitches of the steek bridge in this sweater, because it's a super dark color. So when I'm picking up the stitches for the button band along the steek bridge, like along the edge of the steek bridge, it's gonna be really hard to see those stitches. I'm gonna do it in really, really good light, because it's just hard to see darker yarn. But I also did a purl row like on the edges of the steek bridge, so that I'll pick up the stitch right before that, basically, so that I'll know that I'm doing it in a straight line, because it's so hard to see. So that's just a tip. You can do that no matter what. It makes it easier, but especially if you are knitting with a darker wool or really small stitches, it's useful to do that so that you can see that you're doing it in a straight line. Okay, so when you get to the steek at the marker, right, I already said that, you purl this first and last, or I'm purling the first and last. You don't have to do that. So then you continue in this manner, knitting every stitch except I'm purling the first and last stitches of the steek bridge until your sweater body is as long as you want it. So for me, that's 15 inches. I'm gonna knit the sweater body, it's almost there, but not quite. I'm gonna knit the sweater body to 15 inches. So then sleeves, again, where did I put that other sleeve? Somewhere, here it is. You cast on the number of stitches you need for the sleeve with no extras, because the sleeve you're not gonna cut. On your smaller needle, there it is. Oh, that's the end. Let's get really tangly. So there's my cuff. You start with the cuff. I should show it this way because it's the direction of knitting. There's the sleeve. I knit it for the same number, did the ribbed band for the same number of rounds as the body. So there's 20 rounds of 1x1 ribbing on the sleeve. You can see it there. It's nice and stretchy on the smaller needles. Then, when you're done 20 rounds, you're going to switch to the larger needles, or you don't have to do 20 rounds, you just however long you want it. But make a note, because you're going to have to make a second identical sleeve. So, and if you're like me, I started with a sleeve, then I'm knitting the body, and then I'm going to knit another sleeve. So there's significant time in between knitting the first sleeve and knitting the second sleeve. So I have to be careful and make notes so that they're the same. Then you join it in the round again. You do your ribbing. You can substitute any kind of cuff you want. 2x2 ribbing, 1x2, 1x3, rolled cuff, whatever is your preference. You can also add like a little colorwork thing there. Sometimes people add a colorwork motif. This sweater, for instance, has one. It also has one on the hem. And when I stand up to show you this, you will see how small this desk is, and you'll think then it'll be clear that I'm sitting at a really tiny desk. You see the desk is like way down here. reaches to my knees. So there's and here I have a hem ribbing, and then for both of the cuffs and the hem, and then I have color motif. So you can see all the Legos up there behind me. Children inhabit this space most of the time. Okay, so in the pattern it says to do longer cuff than I did, because in the pattern they want you to fold the cuff over. So I did not want a folded cuff. And you can figure out if you want the folded cuff, knit to the length that tells you in the book, and if not, you're gonna want to measure your actual arm, like from armpit to wrist, and then make the sleeve that long. And yeah, so make sure that you're careful with that. Otherwise you're gonna have a sleeve that's way too long if you didn't want to fold it over. So the way that the sleeve is constructed, after the rib, you switch to the larger needles, and the pattern will tell you like increase 1 stitch at the beginning of the round and the end of the round every like 6th round or 10th round or 12th round, depending on your size, and depending on the weight of the yarn. And you can do that like 2 stitches into the round. The book or pattern will usually tell you where to do it, although my preference is to do it like 4 or 5 stitches into the round, and then again 4 or 5 stitches before the end of the round, so that otherwise it looks like a staircase. So I don't love that. Although when the sleeve is on your body, you won't notice because it's not lying flat. But yeah, so you'll do your increases. You'll increase 2 stitches every several rounds, whatever your pattern tells you. In my size, that's every 6 rounds, until you have the final like number of stitches you're supposed to have for your sleeve. So it's usually an increase of like 60 to 80, or in an Aran weight sweater like this or worsted, it's like you start with 40 and you end up with 60, something like that. And when you're finished with your increases, you're probably not going to have the full length you need for the sleeves, so you just keep knitting with no increases until you're at that point. And after that, I will let you know what you have to do in the next video, because it involves putting some stitches on hold and then putting all your stitches on one needle, which is fun and sometimes frustrating, because all of a sudden you have a ton of stitches on the needle and it wants to make an oval shape, because your body is not a round like circular needle is. It's like it's an oval. But yeah, that's fun. So that's the basics of the construction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the yoke color choices I have. So again, this is the body color, and this is the color I'm going to use for the like background color of the yoke. So I have a couple of options. I can't hold these and show you at the same time, but one of them is several blues. Maybe not exactly, oops, I dropped one. These 3, but can I get it? Oh no, it's way over there. I'm just gonna leave it. You saw it. Here's 2 of them. This one's Highland Mist. This is not a full ball. This one is Dewdrop. My brother got me a bunch of blue yarns from Jameson's for Christmas. He's 19, and this is what he got me for Christmas. So get you a brother like mine. He rocks. Yeah, he's not obviously not a knitter. Well, not obviously not a knitter. Lots of dudes knit, but he's very knit worthy. He loves the things that I make for him, and he's great. Anyway, that's a total digression. This is another option for a palette. Warm colors. Maybe I'll do like a bright stripe of something else in the middle if I choose something like this. But I don't know. All of these colors that I've just shown you, by the way, are Jamieson's of Shetland. This one's Copper. This one is Cardinal. This one is Paprika. And this one is Burnt Umber. I get most of these from the Woolly Thistle, which sometimes sells Jamieson's, sometimes doesn't. It's definitely harder to get this. And they stock a lot of awesome yarns, but this is not necessarily produced in as large quantities as Jamieson and Smith yarn, so it's harder. You can also get it from Schoolhouse Press. It's a good place to get limited things. They don't have a huge range of products at Schoolhouse Press, but they have a ton of books because they publish a lot of books. And they have certain yarns that I really like. Like they sell Pullover, which is the lopi that's sort of unspun in plates. But they don't really sell and I think they sell Einband, which is the like lace weight lopi, but they don't sell any of the like Let lopi or Alafas lopi, which are sort of more typical yarns that you would find in a yarn store. And they sell Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift, which is the regular jumper weight yarn from Jamieson's, and they also sell one of their lace yarns from Jamieson's. But like they don't sell the double knitting Jamieson's or anything else. And they also sell Briggs & Little Regal, which is a Canadian, very unprocessed, extremely economical wool that I love. I knit sweaters like this out of Regal all the time, and it's really inexpensive and it's really long lasting. It's scratchy, but it's worth it. Although they don't carry any of the other Briggs & Little yarns, which is, I have a lot of questions about that. But they do their thing and they're great. So anyway, that is Kokkaloorie Sweater, episode 1 from Tiny Desk Knitting. So I hope this was useful for you, and come back and check out my other videos. Bye!